In this video, we're going to go over how to add, subtract, and multiply radicals. To add and subtract radicals, the number inside the radicals must be the same. And to multiply them, the inside number multiplies with the inside number, and the outside number multiplies with the outside number. So let's kind of look and see what exactly is that saying, and how can we put that into practice. So in this first example, we have 5 times the square root of 7 plus the square root of 11 minus 8 times the square root of 7. Now here, we can see that we have 2 that have the same inside number. So that tells me that I can take the 5 and I can subtract the 8. So 5 minus 8 is going to be a negative 3 times the square root of 7. And because the 11 doesn't break down and simplify, because 11 is a prime number, and there are no other radical 11s, then the radical 11 will be by itself. And that will be our final answer here. Now for our next problem, we have 10 times the square root of 5 plus the square root of 20. Now we can't just say, oh, I can't do it. You need to try to simplify and break down your 20. So 20 breaks down with 2 and 10, and 2 and 5. And because of the square root, we're looking for pairs. And we have a pair of 2's right here, so it would be 2 times the square root of 5. And we're going to bring down our 10 square root of 5. And now notice here that we have the square root of 5 and the square root of 5, which allows us to put our 10 with our 2. And 10 plus 2 is 12. And we're talking about radical 5s. So it's saying if you had 10 radical 5s and I had 2 radical 5s and we put them all together, then we would have 12 radical 5s. Let's do some more examples. So I'm going to have you do letter C on your own. Now, don't be fooled by the cube. The rules are the same. So go ahead and do letter C and push pause, and when you're done, push play, and let's see if you were right. So here we see that the x on the inside is the same, and that they're both cube roots. So that tells us that we can put the 6 with the 2. So we should have 8 times the cubed root of x as our final answer. Go ahead and try letter D on your own. When you're done, unpause the video and let's see if you were right. So here we see that we have a 5x and a 5x, and both radicals are cube roots. And so that allows us to take the 4 and subtract it with the 11. And so 4 minus 11 gives us a negative 7 times the cubed root of 5x as our final answer. Let's talk about multiplication. So in this problem, we have the square root of 5 times the square root of 3 minus the square root of 75. So in this case, we're going to distribute. So square root of 5 times the square root of 3 gives us the square root of 15. And the square root of 5 times the square root of 75 is going to give us a value of 375. So minus the square root of 375. And now we're going to try and break down our 375. If we break down a 15, we just get a 3 and a 5, which doesn't break down any farther. But 375 can be broken into our 5 and our 75. And 75 is like saying, hey, you've got 3/4. And then 25 is 2 5s. And we're looking for groups of, so here we see that we have a group of 2 5s right here. So we'll bring out a 5. And then those are kind of by themselves. And so that's going to leave us with the square root of 15, because those will get multiplied. So we can even show that to make it a little bit easier so you can understand that we're going to have a 5 times the 3 still inside. So that gives us a 5 radical 15. And right here, that doesn't change. We're just going to bring it down, and that's our square root of 15. And remember, it was a minus. So this is like saying 1 square root of 15 minus 4 square roots of 15, which should give us a final answer of negative 4 square roots of 15 as our final answer. Let's do letter F together. So here we have cubed roots, so it's okay that we have a negative on the inside. So we'll distribute, and that's going to give us the cubed root of negative 8 minus, because our minus right there. So if we take negative 4 and multiply that by 16, that is going to give us the cubed root of negative 64. Now the cubed root of 8 is 2. And we could get that if we wanted to break it down. We could go 4 and 2 and 2 and 2. And notice that we've got 3 of a kind for 2. So 2, and our negative comes out in front. Now we're going to break down our 64. So we're going to get 8 and 8. Now remember, we just did it for 8, right? Didn't we just find that the cubed root of 8 was 2? Well, here we're talking about the cubed root of 8, and the cubed root of 8 is, well, there. So we can actually just pull out a 2 here and a 2 here. So those will multiply together, and we'll bring out our negative sign, and we have our negative sign there as well. So what we have is a negative 2 plus 4, which is a value of 2. And that is our final answer. So what if you have a problem? Let's do one more. What if you have a problem that looks like this? The square root of 2 plus the square root of 5 times the square root of 15 minus the square root of 20. What would you do in this case? Well, in this case, you would FOIL your problem. So here we would take the square root of 2 times the square root of 15, which would give us the square root of 30. And the square root of 2 times the square root of negative 20, which is a negative square root of 40. Square root of 15, the square root of 5 times the square root of 15 is going to give us a positive square root of 75. And the square root of 5 times negative square root of 20 is a negative square root of 100. So from here, we're going to have to break down each of these pieces. So we're going to go ahead and take our 30, that's a 3 and a 10, and a 5 and a 2. And what we see from there is that that doesn't really break down. So this is still going to be the square root of 30. And we're going to take our minus sign, we're going to bring it down, and now we're going to break apart our 40. So we're going to have 4 and 10, and 2 and 2, and then 2 and 5. And we see that we have a pair of 2's there. So this is going to be a 2, and there's still a 2 and a 5 inside, so that's going to be 2 radical 10 that comes down. Then we're going to bring down our plus sign, and we're going to break apart our 75. So 75 is like 3/4. 25 is 5 and 5, which is a pair of 5's. So we have 5 radical 3. So we'll bring down our 5 radical 3. Then we'll bring down our minus sign, and the square root of 100 is 10. So we'll do a minus 10 there. And as we look at this, we notice that you can't put anything together. Well, so then how do I know which order to write it in? When we're writing our answer, we're going to write our answer with the whole number without any radicals first, and then it's going to go in increasing order based on what's inside of the radical. So what would come next would be our 5 radical 3, and then the minus 2 radical 10, and last our positive radical 30. And that would be the final answer for this particular problem. Now, if some of my insides had been the same, I could have put those pieces together. It just didn't work out for us this time. So that's how you add, subtract, and multiply radicals.